Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. Full time in Croatia, nothing each. If we have to take some positives from tonight, gents, I think it's a clean sheet away from home. It's is it a point gained or 2 points dropped, given the way the nature and the way the game played out? It's still in our hands, right? And I think we have to appreciate that. And probably, if you told us we'd be in this situation at this stage in the Champions League before it started, we'd have taken it. But I think we have to view the game in honest terms. I don't think we were at our best tonight, were we, Sean?
Yeah, no, I don't think we were great, but we controlled the game pretty well, which is something you need to kind of do away from home in Europe and generally in Europe, I guess. So we did control the game, which kind of mostly limited their chances. They were better in the second half, Zagreb. They were creating chances on the counter, but there was a lot working against us tonight, other than football. We were clearly the better team, but everything else, I think you could say it was a good point in the sense that there was so much else going against us. There was literal explosions going off in the crowd. The stadium, Tannoy, was probably doing more shouting than half the Celtic team. The pitch was terrible. It was icy, it was bobbly. The referee was giving us absolutely nothing. Every time we went forward in that second half, we were just getting fouled and not getting a free kick. Celtic players were just chucking their hands out in disbelief. And I think when you factor in all those things, it's a good point in that sense. A lot of non-football factors going against us that we managed to balance out with being the better side, even though not playing well enough to win the game.
Yeah, I would agree. Ryan, I think it's a difficult one because away from home in the Champions League is never something you should take for granted, right? And there's a lot of factors into play tonight. And as I say, I think when we look at this from a purely pragmatic standpoint, to steal a word from Joe Hart, who I thought was excellent on commentary tonight again, that man's definitely got a knack for that. But I think in those pragmatic terms, this keeps it in our hands. It means we do have to go and get a result against young boys, preferably a win. But it just feels like we'll never have a better shot at getting an away win, given the performance of Zagreb tonight. I mean, they were dead on their feet by the end of that match, and we were bringing on fresh players. Why wasn't there the impetus, do you think? Why did it looked at the point, by the time the game ended, that we were playing for a draw as well? There just didn't seem to be that urgency. How did you read the second half performance?
Yeah, I think the psychological factor in it, I think, was playing into it. And I said this in the first half and it's second half as well. It's just there was too much of it. We can't lose this game more than let's go out and win this game. Which is a shame because I agree. I mean, there was a player that was getting treated on the pitch for cramp at the 71st minute.
Yes,
and we're bringing on quality and has pace and everything like that. So there was that lack of just like putting it against their throats and just really going after it, which I was a bit frustrated. I think the team. I completely agree too, Sean, that the lack of calls that we were getting, especially that one angles in the exit at the box. They showed the replay of that too, and I was looking at it and saying, okay, show me why he didn't think that was a foul, and I couldn't find any indication why that wasn't called. So the team was getting frustrated, and it was good to see the players coming on and really driving at it, but it still felt too much like, don't lose this game, don't lose possession, kind of control it from there, and we'll get our chance instead of let's really have a go at it. What time will tell. I don't like having these last two games, and I think this is Champions League still. Any team can do well, so we can't go into the young boys game just thinking that's going to be the case. And I don't want to have to go to Birmingham trying to get any type of result. So it would have made our lives a lot easier to walk away with that 3 points. And I have to say too, I'm surprised you guys all around the world did not hear a loud slap in the distance when I hit my forehead after that cross by Engels to Ida. It was covered by the defender. I thought that was our moment. It was the most attacking to direct play that we had in the game, and just that should have been what we were doing over and over and over again. It just wasn't happening.
Yeah, I mean, when the substitutions were made, I think we did see what looked like a tendency to be a bit more direct. It looked as though we were going forward. I mean, Kyogo's getting a few negative comments coming through the chat, which I understand. I think there was a really high level of work rate from Kyogo today without necessarily producing enough. I mean, the amount of times he ran up and pressured the goalkeeper when he was on. But I think that I want to go back to a comment that was actually made at half time and has been, I believe it's been remade and at full time here. Apologies, I can't seem to find it. But basically, it's to say that we have two wingers who can't seem to cross the ball with either left and right foot respectively. If only we could find a solution. Looking at the effort that Kyogo put in terms of his movement, his running tonight, yet we played very few crosses in. I can only think of one cross that was actually on target tonight, which I think is astonishingly poor when you consider how much praise we've given the wingers. I mean, Sean, how do we start getting our strikers into positions where they're actually receiving service and scoring goals at the moment? Because there just wasn't enough accuracy when it came to that final ball.
Yeah, there was a point in the game where we had two crosses in a row that were both good crosses, and the Dinamo Zagreb defence ate them up. The chance that Ryan's talking about there, I thought it was actually well blocked by the right back, and I thought it was a really good player. Their right back was very good. Because Maeda, when Maeda comes off, like that right back was putting him under pressure.
Yes.
Like anytime Hatate played a ball into Maeda, I was like, oh no, because it was 50-50 every time. And I actually thought bringing Forrest on was the right call, just the way that was playing out. So, yeah, I don't know that there was much opportunity for crossing, to be honest. I think our two best chances come from these low crosses into the box. The one where Forrest plays in angles and it's so close to reaching Ida. Just a little bit ahead. If it just been a little bit further ahead, like 1 foot further ahead, or if the defender was a little switched off. Another one that, again, was really close to Kyogo, where it was just the keeper just gets to it first. So I think that high balls into the box were not really going to be getting much success today. Even with Engels coming on, he looked like he was going to get on the end of them. But again, he was getting fouled a lot and getting away with it. They were getting away with it. Yeah, I think they were strong in the air, and we couldn't quite get in behind them, couldn't quite get that space in behind that we needed to create those clear chances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ryan, if we look at anything, and I'm trying to desperately grab positives from tonight, defensively, I thought we handled there wasn't a lot thrown at us, but I thought we handled it relatively well. I even want to single out Greg Taylor for a bit of praise, despite, some of the criticism that was coming his way earlier. He did make one very good last-ditch tackle, which was important. So I think it's important we recognise that. And I think overall our defence was relatively well disciplined, particularly when you consider both our left back and then our replacement right back were on yellow cards. They did handle what was thrown at them, albeit I don't think Zagreb had the energy to throw much at us, but we just couldn't translate it into meaningful chances, could we? To translate.
No, we didn't have any good transition. I mean, yeah, the back line, I thought, handled it well. It's 2 games in a row now where if I look back at it, level-headed, I'd say that there was at no point was I really too concerned that we were going to concede. So that's great to see in the Champions League. But I feel like with a better team, they will punish us. And that's just what we didn't have. We had 2 teams that didn't have the quality to punish us. And when we go up against a team that will punish us, a la Dortmund, we walk away with that type of result. So I think that's the biggest concern there, is that we're too timid with our passing, not really going for chances. And then when we do go for a little bit, just because the team's a little bit imbalanced, or maybe not everyone's kind of going at it with the same level of intensity, we lose the ball, and next thing you know, they're running at us. So they handled it well, but a better team would have put 3 past us in this game. It's the same feeling I got from that Hibs game. And this is where I worry about how much of this plays into this, of not necessarily being able to play against quality opposition week in and week out. You kind of get into this level of if we make a mistake, yeah, we can handle it, or it's not going to be too much of an issue. Whereas like, no, sorry, if we do progress and we go into the knockout rounds into playoffs, we will be up against a team that we make a mistake and they will be on us, and we'll be lucky not to concede a goal. So that's the biggest thing that leaves me a lot of concern. And since we're talking about defense, I would like to know what's going on with AJ, because
yes, that's
I was not expecting him. I didn't really see anything in that game that said to me that he was struggling towards the end of the second half, unless I wasn't paying attention to it.
There was the one challenge which when
Yeah.
Zagreb player kind of was pushed into him and kind of fell into him. It looks like he took a sore one, but I didn't see any indications that he couldn't continue at that point. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anyone is able to watch the post-match analysis. Let us know in the comments if there's anything mentioned on AJ, because that is a concern, particularly with the cup final. Looming has been such an important player for us, and I think to an extent, without coming down too hard on Ralston, who I thought had a middling game, to be honest, when he came on. I think we missed AJ in the second half. Sean, I mean, he's been a stalwart, a goal scorer. He is a leader on the park, and by God, we don't want to lose him for the cup final.
Yeah, no, I thought Ralston stood up really well defensively, but he was pretty poor going forward. There's one where we talked about those low crosses getting in behind, and there's one point where he does get in behind and he just leans back and absolutely skies it. And that's the sort of thing you don't normally get from AJ. He's normally more clinical with those. And I have to say, Taylor playing in that number 6, like throughout the game, was giving me the fear, because we're talking about playing to not lose and playing cautiously, and having him in there was giving us an extra man, which was helping us maintain possession. But if we lost possession at that point, and they had all their attacks were coming down that right hand side, and most of the time, to be fair, it wasn't because we'd lost possession, but and from Taylor, I mean, but whenever he was in there, I could just see their right winger just kind of floating out there, waiting for to win the ball back and release. So that was putting me on edge as well. I wasn't a big fan of Taylor's performance tonight, to be honest.
No, I think that's fair. To be honest, and we did talk about that previously in terms of what we witnessed after the Hibs game. Let me bring up some comments, get a general feeling from the chat. So we'll start with Barry O'Sullivan. Been so poor up front. Final ball has been very poor. Lots. I think it means lost all the physical battles up front. No excuses. Joe McAleer, a bit more succinct, says very sloppy display tonight. M. Young comes in to say they've been out on their feet since the 70th minute. I think that goes to your point, Ryan. There was a player taking cramp around about the 70th minute. We've completely failed to take advantage, and I think that's a frustration. Play like this on Sunday and we could lose. Boyd Bob comes in, a point away, but good game, but my God, that was bad, boring. Pete comes in, utterly sickened by the end, by mishit, free kick from Engels. All night crossing has been woeful. I would echo that. Roger's obsessed with possession instead of the basics. It's difficult to know, but I think he would have been frustrated. Interesting to hear what he says, but I think he'd be frustrated with the end product. Pigeon M says the most boring point we gained in this Champions League campaign. At least we've gained a point, right? I mean, I suppose we've got to say that. Marquis comes in, again, pragmatic. At least we didn't get beat. I need medicated. I think we all do after that, to be fair. Played like we were scared to try and attack quickly. There was a lack of urgency, guys, from the particularly in the later stages of the game, where you thought that was our best chance to really go and press. And Henke comes in, very poor. Doesn't look like we believe we could win. Best chance we'll get to win away from home. Well, hopefully not, but I would agree. I think that we're disappointed, Ryan, right? Because we saw that as an opportunity to break this duck, to get this away win. We're coming up against a team which is, on paper, under strength. Lots of injuries, lots of players out. They were dead on their feet. Their manager seemed very hesitant to make substitutions, either by choice or because he simply had no choice. Didn't have much of a bench. It's not entitled to say that we could have and probably should have taken advantage of their fatigue, taken advantage of the fact they were most definitely weakened. Is it for you a point gained or 2 points dropped?
I think if we look at it through the lens of Celtic in the Champions League, it's encouraging. I know it's a very glass half full of way of looking at it, but it's encouraging that we're sitting here as supporters being frustrated. We just got a point away from home.
Yeah.
So I will always take any point away from home. Do I think we could have won that? Yes, but I will definitely say that's a point gained. What will be interesting for me is that's 2 games in a row where I feel like it felt the same. I do not want it to be a third. If especially because that lack of intensity has kind of bled a little bit into some of our home games. Our domestic games as well. So I hope we don't play with that same way on Sunday and into any other game. So it will be concerning to me when we get into January and we say like, okay, we're coming up at home. I want to see more of that, that intensity we had against Leipzig and Bratislava. I can't see that just playing the ball sideways, being too timid to make that pass, and then the only person that is going to make that pass is Hatate, and it never really comes off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing on the Greg Taylor thing, I wanted to it kind of occurred to me because he is in the contract situation, and we're hearing all these things, and we're all, a lot of us seem to be disappointed with his performance tonight, myself included. We hear a lot about how he's the leader in the team and in the dressing room and stuff like that, and especially when you see all the stuff they put on socials, he's very involved and stuff like that. But I think for me, I had the first aha moment where I don't think, even on the games where he's playing well, I don't think I've ever seen him really be a leader on the pitch. If he seems like someone that needs to be led, especially when he's not really, when we're in the situations where he's not playing as well. And I think that to me has been the thing that's always had me a little bit off about him, especially even when he was doing well in the end times, and he has a lot of great performances the last few seasons. But it just seems these type of games, especially in Europe, it's his leadership. You feel it from Kalmack, you feel it from CCV, you feel it from even people like Trusty, who's growing in this game. I don't get that same feeling with him on the ball, and I'm not sure why that's there. And I think that's always been the thing that's been lacking. That makes me and a lot of the support concerned when we get into these more difficult games, that he is more of a concern than an asset. Yeah,
no, I think that's a fair point. Sean, on the if we're looking at individual performances tonight, we don't like singling out any players, but I think we spoke about the lineup in the pre-match. Obviously, I know you joined for the half-time, but I think a lot of us felt that the lineup tonight that we started with was potentially, or maybe with one or two variations, was our strongest lineup. It was our strongest team that we could have fielded. I think obviously question marks over would we play Engels, would we play Bernardo? You've got the debate around Baye and Taylor, but we look at some individuals like Rio Hatate tonight, for example. There was a moment in that match in the second half which for me summed up Rio Hatate's night. He's on the ball, he's moving forward. There are 3 of our players in front of him, and he plays the ball to none of them. And from there, within about a 5 or 6 minute period, he loses possession. I counted 4 times on the trot, 4 times in a row. We know when Rio Hatate gets it right, and Joe Hart alluded to this on the commentary on TNT Sports, but we know when Rio Hatate gets it right, it's quite often, more often than not, it leads to a very clear-cut chance or a goal. But when it doesn't come off, you have that sense of frustration and missed opportunity. It can be difficult sometimes to, and we I personally like Hatate. I know many of our contributors like Hatate. But when you see performances like that, we cannot afford to be so wasteful and so profligate in these games, can we?
Yeah, I'm starting to think that Hatate might actually be a number 6, to be honest, the way he's been playing in the last few weeks. He does most of his best work in the Celtic half. Like, he's got a low centre of gravity. He can pull the ball out the air quite well, using his body as a shield, and he's much more sound with his passing and possession in the Celtic half. But yeah, as soon as when he gets up to the other half, he forgets how to put a block on. He forgets how to do those little turns that he can do in his own half. And his passing is much less accurate. It's very strange. I don't quite understand why which half, how far up you are up the pitch changes the way you play a game. It's very confusing and frustrating at times as well. Yeah, I do wonder if all the people that are like bagging Hatate would rather have Engels or did you bag in Engels as well? Because like a lot, I actually thought Engels was okay. He did lose possession one time that was egregious, but then there's another one where he sets up a great counter attack. There's another one, there's a couple of times where he would be through an attack and he gets fouled. One point, the referee blocks him when he goes to receive a pass from McCown, and the referee blocks Engels, and we lose possession in that way. So I wouldn't pin that one on Engels. I actually thought he was okay, even though, I don't know. Like, who would you have started? I think everyone going back in time would have called it Hatate, but maybe there's a case that Engels would have been a better option there.
Yeah, well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? And you assume that, that change would have resulted in a different outcome. It's not necessarily always true. Ryan, there was another individual I thought was conspicuous by how by their own standards, how ineffective they were, and that was Dyson Maeda tonight. Mm-hmm. I felt as though, and I think, Sean, you pointed out that their right back was excellent tonight. I think you said, and I felt tonight Maeda, I think part of it was I thought he looked flat-footed. I thought he was struggling to get up to his normal pace, and whether that was an issue with the pitch or just the fact that he's maybe lacking a little bit of the sharpness of the fitness. Maybe a reaction to the travelling again. It seemed to happen previously. A few people have speculated on that, but that's just a rough observation. But Ryan, Maeda, normally we're used to seeing him bombing past players. We know his final ball is not always great, but tonight he's really struggled to impose himself on the game, didn't he?
He did, and again, this players are going to have off nights, and I think we're starting to see the effects of the lack of depth that we have on the wings, because right now with our team, and as much as we keep on seeing Forrest deny the doubters and continuing to play on and earn his extension, and we feel a lot more comfortable when he comes on. We're in a lucky position where in a big game, we all want Carter Vickers and Trusty to be in there, but we'll feel good with Trusty and Scales coming on. Any of the four center midfielders that are going to play in front of Kalmack, like we any game we can kind of bring them on and kind of chop and change them. They can fit in there. A big game, it is Maeda and Kun. And that is, they probably have had the most minutes. They probably have to do the majority of the running. I don't have the data to support this. I'm just making assumptions, so maybe other people can kind of come in, and Alan can correct me on this. But I think this is starting to get to the point where going into the Rangers game this weekend, and then any other major game after that, we have to have another winger in there, either on the left and or on the right, that can come into these big games and give these players a rest. And he's going to get an off day. Every player is due an off day, and today just didn't seem to be clicking for him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I want to bring a comment in here, which I think is quite apt, and I do want to make sure we're not just focusing on any negatives tonight. But Joseph Madden comes in to say, it shows how well we're doing that we're disappointed with a draw away from home in the Champions League. I mean, how things can change over the course of one season, guys. And Sean, I think, we do have to keep that in mind, that, look, there are positives to take from tonight. And I think if, you were offered our position at the moment up at the start of the season, we would have taken it. But as we see the team progress, as we've seen some of the great performances we've had in Europe this season, we've seen real evidence of progression. We're dominating things domestically, albeit, our intensity seems to have tailed off in the last few games, as Ryan says. Are we overreacting a little bit to, the draw tonight? And actually, should we be looking more in the sense that, collectively, okay, individually, a few players maybe weren't playing up to standard. Collectively, this team is now sitting on 9 points in the Champions League. 11 points we believe is good enough for the playoffs. We've got 2 matches to do it. One of which I think the majority of fans would, view us as being able to win quite comfortably.
Yeah, and look, even if we draw, it might be enough to get us through anyway. But I think 9 points from 6 matches is, someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that matches our best ever Champions League performances. Under Strachan and under Martin O'Neill, we picked up 9 points. Again, I stand to be corrected if that's the case, but I don't know that we've ever had more than 9 points. So that's pretty good. Only 1 loss, fair enough. It was a chastening loss, but apart from that, we've not lost a game, which is pretty good. we're above Man City, PSG, Real Madrid. We're not. I don't think we're doing that badly. You can talk about who we've drawn, but you can only play who you can play. Atalanta are up there, Dortmund are up there, so we have had some good teams as well. And I do think, even though we've mentioned already, like lack of urgency, missed opportunity, stuff like that, the opposition were dead on their feet. But I do also think that a lot of that was the possession that we held actually did drag them about, move them about, make them work a lot more off the ball and did kind of suck some of the air out of the stadium. It wasn't until like the last 10 minutes that the fans really started going. They had to start setting off explosions before they could start singing. So like I think away from home having possession is sensible.
Yes.
When we think back to the Brugge game where we kind of the Celtic Park lost its atmosphere a little bit at the start, and that was because Brugge were keeping possession and offering a threat down the wings, and they weren't really letting the fans and the team kind of work together in unison to create momentum, and I think we did that tonight against, and that has to be. You can talk about Dinamo Zagreb's acute situation, but I think the sensible thing in any away game in Europe has to be to do that, to keep possession, suck the air out of the game, even if it does feel at times like you're being too cautious.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's fair. And by the way, I think we have to point to the fact that we've taken a clean sheet again in Europe, which is great, and away from home. And I mean, he comes up with the goods time and time again, and he did it again tonight. Kasper Schmeichel, that save from the Zagreb header. Ryan, this is a player I think that belongs in the Champions League. He belongs at this level. We have signed a player that, for me, absolutely elevates the quality within the team. The best teams always have a top goalkeeper to rely on. By God, we've got one at the moment, don't we? Oh, yeah, maybe on mute, Ryan.
About that. The dog was barking earlier, so I wanted to spare everyone. But no, it's he deservedly man of the match against Hibs. And when it's these moments that, again, we talked about this before. This is these games where you're just waiting for that sucker punch, and it hasn't happened. One thing, as we're talking about, we've had one loss in 6 games. Obviously it was a bad loss, but the goals that we conceded against Leipzig, that was from a corner, and the goal that we conceded against Brugge was, let's not talk about it, but we haven't had 4 games, we haven't had a goal conceded in an open play.
I think the Bratislava one. Oh, sorry, in 4 games. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. The Bratislava one was that looping header that we got in there. But if you take away the demolition, I know it's hard to take away the demolition, but like that's the only goal that we've conceded in open play, and that was when we were already 3-0 up. So there's a lot of when we look at our history in this competition, even when we're playing well, even Ange's first year, when we thought our attacking play was unbelievable, we were still getting drubbed, with conceding so many goals. So to build from the back and to be able to get in this competition and just to have that foundation, it gives us a great foundation to build off of. So we're not getting these draws by the skin of our teeth. We're not winning games by the skin of our teeth. We're not getting these balls that are these goals that are sucker punches. And I think Kasper has been a huge part of that. He helps us build from the back. He's a steady pair of feet to get back to, and then he just reminds us over and over again that he's an excellent shot stopper. So it was a wonderful save from him, and I think he's going to be a huge part of.
Absolutely, no, I couldn't agree more. I think we can no longer question that signing. That signing is looking at a really good bit of business at the moment. I want to bring up some more comments here before we finish up. We want to finish up just by talking a little bit about how we should approach the game at the weekend. But we'll pop in with the Quiet Man. What a brilliant avatar! I love that film. That is honestly my parents' and my grandparents' favorite movie. John Wayne and the Quiet Man. A mature performance away from home. We are looking like we belong in Europe. I would agree with that. Gio comes in and says, happy not to get beat, but really not great. I think that's, again, indicative of the disappointment we feel, and that maybe we should have taken more advantage of the opportunity. But still, I agree, happy not to get beat. Sean Fairley comes in with their away record. A point is never bad. However, an opportunity missed. The forwards were very poor. I think Ida put himself about. Actually, again, I thought there was evidence that his touch is coming back to him, and the sharpness is coming back. But maybe just a difficult game to come in and make that impact. As I say, I think we could have given him more service in that match. David Boyle comes in 100%. We should have pushed harder in the last 20 and pushed their failing fitness. I agree with that. I think there was an opportunity there to utilise some of our fresher players. LM comes in a couple of weeks ago. You'd have taken a draw, but knowing how poor they've been in half their team, it's a big opportunity to get a win. That's fine. And then Kaiser, I'm not actually even going to argue with this. What a great avatar as well, Kaiser. But yeah, Double Denim, you never put my comments up. You just milk them for things to say, not crickets. I'm not going to deny this. Kaiser actually regularly makes some pretty good points on here. The problem is that by the time I read them, and before I can actually star them so I can bring them up, they've disappeared. So I'm doing it all from memory, Kaiser, but I will give you the credit. You've made some excellent points, which I have shamelessly plagiarised. So I will not deny that. And I'm even doing that, and I'm leaving your comment up accidentally. But guys, look, it's a point in the Champions League again. It's still in our hands. I think we've got to be grateful for that. We've got now the cup final to look forward to at the weekend. It would be nice to go into that with a win, but I think the one thing, AJ maybe aside, we've come out of this game relatively unscathed. We've got a decent enough squad, I think, to go and maybe make a statement performance against Rangers in the final. But Sean, what would you like to see at the weekend in contrast to tonight's performance?
Oh, just a quick point. I'm hoping, it occurred to me after you mentioned it earlier that AJ was the only player that was on a potential suspension tonight. So I'm wondering if that was part of it, because the way the referee was dishing out cards. So I'm hoping that was it and not an injury. Awesome. But for Sunday, yeah, I think that was a good rehearsal for Sunday because it's a big pitch. It's going to be poor conditions. It's going to be a team that's solid, not going to play the same kind of lines. So it was. I don't think it was too dissimilar to what we can expect on Sunday, but I'm hoping that the surface will be a little bit better on Sunday, and that will give us a chance to be a little bit more. Offer a little bit more attacking impetus, and hopefully the referee doesn't start getting in the way and letting Lazarus away with whatever they want to get let away with, which was what happened with Zagreb tonight. So I think it'll be much the same from a footballing perspective, but the conditions will be more in our favour, and hopefully we can get a goal in the first half, and that will really set us up for the game.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that. Ryan, your thoughts about the game of the weekend? Would you make any changes from tonight's lineup for the cup final, or do you think there's still merit in that lineup tonight?
I mean, I still think that lineup can go out and do the job, but I've seen a few games in a row now where, granted, he had that excellent goal against Hearts, but I'm sorry, Aberdeen too. But I've seen too many games in a row of Rio just not keeping the ball the way he should, making errant passes, and a lot of our play breaking down with him. So I think it's time to maybe try out with Engels and Bernardo, or even say McCowan in there. But I think for me, from that starting lineup, my number one would be dropping him to the bench, and I wouldn't be against dropping Taylor as well. So, but if you put out the exact same team, I have confidence.
Absolutely, and I think we have to credit the manager for what he's achieved this season so far. We are still in line for an invincible season. Say it quiet, but yeah, we are still in line for that. The treble is still very much on, and ultimately a game against Rangers. We shouldn't need any extra motivation for that game. So I think we trust the manager, trust the process, and we go again. That is us now at time. Thank you very much indeed to everybody that's joined. I can't believe we've been over 1,500. On both a half-time and full-time shows, and that's with a live event going on at Burroughs Art and Design. I have been checking in on the atmosphere there. I believe it was getting a little bit frustrated at times, but I'm sure the guys will do a good job keeping the crowd entertained, and hopefully everybody got a free pie. I'm gutted I'm not there, but as we say, someone's got to keep the lights on, and I've drafted in some internationals to help out tonight. Sean, really appreciate you coming on as always, sir. I know it's very late where you are.
I'm going back to bed.
Yeah. Just watch the game. Just watch the game back. You guys.
I know. I was just. It's only 3:15 in the afternoon, and I might do the same after that game. So.
Ryan, your support is always appreciated as well. So it's been great to be on with the guys. Listen, everybody in the chat and everybody commented, thank you very much indeed. Hope everybody has a great night and look forward to seeing you guys again for the cup final. Acsom will be back as normal tomorrow at 12:30. Not sure if it's me or Paul John yet. I don't want to tell people it's me just in case they decide not to tune in, but it could very well be me. I never know his plans until the last minute. Thanks everyone. Have a great night. This has been a Celtic State of Mind on a Champions League night. We go on. Hail, hail.
Yeah, well.